All right, everyone, welcome to episode 1 of the Dragon Deer Outdoors Habitat Improvement Project. I'm Matt Thielking. Just wanted to bring to you guys my 2020 Habitat Improvement Plan. First, I got to thank all the habitat improvement experts out there. Jake Ealinger, Jeff Sturgis, Jim Brocker, Randy Vanderveen. Thank you guys so much for all the content that you guys produce. I have learned a ton from you guys. And then a big thanks to Ty Miller of Small Acre Hunting. I actually hired Ty to do a digital consultation for me, and he put together a great plan for me. Absolute great plan. That's what I'm going to show you guys today. So without further ado, let me show you guys my property. So like I said, I own 21 acres in Southwest Michigan. You can see my house right there. I am in a high pressure area. I have a high pressure state, and my property is comprised of kind of 3 main elements. So right off of my backyard is a lot of flooded timber. And this is kind of a dead zone. The deer, it's not that they can't go through it, they just normally don't. Moving from that, the high ground, I call it, this is kind of the driest area of my property. And there's still areas that are pretty wet, but this is basically my blank slate, what I can work with on my property. And that high ground of my 21 acres, kind of this main square that you guys see right here, that is about 8.5 acres. And then the rest of it is a big swamp or cattail marsh. I have this creek system that runs north and south and then kind of curves down east and west through my property. And it is your very stereotypical cattail marsh. A lot of cattails, a lot of grasses, just nasty swamp, really thick. So what I have currently done, and you guys may have watched my 2019 habitat improvement plan. If you haven't, I'll put a link down below so you can see kind of where I started and kind of where I'm at now. But essentially, this is what I've done on my property. I have put in 1 main food plot and these 2 small kill plots up here. I have a doe bedding area. It's not very big, but right out on it's not even really a peninsula, but just this little bubble that jets out into the swamp. And then I've hinge cut a few trails trying to connect everything to the main food plot. These blue lines are just kind of the main natural deer trails that run through my property. And these are my main 4 stand locations. So kind of my biggest problem has been probably my 2 best stands, and that's these 2 right here. These are probably 2 of the best stands on the property, but accessing them is a real challenge. I mean, you can see if you kind of follow what Jeff Sturgis talks about in a lot of his videos, he talks about, giving deer 50 to 75% of your property. And if you boxed in, really what I need to consider my property. So if you exclude the flooded timber, if you exclude the swamp, areas that I really can't navigate, I've kind of got this box right here that I'm working and hunting within. And if you, like Jeff Sturgis shows, if you started drawing all of the stuff that you are laying down a scent trail for and trying to access, what you can see is I cut off my property really bad with north to south movement. And I guess I should back up and say that I have ag fields directly north of my property up here and directly south of my property. So the main deer movement, natural movement going through my property is north to south. So this stand and this stand, me hunting them, I pretty much kill my property. This one in particular is fantastic. But all of this, even this high ground, even this dry ground, it is really grassy. So it is really hard for me to get into here and not be rubbing up and brushing up against a whole bunch of different stuff. And I think me hunting back this deep into kind of my square that I have to work within, I think I'm just hurting myself. Even with the improvements that I've made, I'm killing my property by hunting these stands. So let me show you guys my 2020 habitat improvement plan. So it looks like this. So let's start with the orange. So I had that doe bedding area right here. So one thing Ty and I definitely agreed upon is I need more bedding, more cover. My high ground, and this is kind of me backing up again. My high ground was a major monoculture of ash and swamp maple. A lot of mature timber, a lot of just trees stacked on top of one another, not a lot of sunlight getting to the ground. And it just creates, even in the spring and summer, there's just not a lot of cover for deer. So that was a big struggle of mine, not just bedding cover, but just cover in general. So, one thing that I really want to focus on is giving deer cover. And I would like to do that in the form that they can bed in it if they want to, and I hope that they do. That's what this orange is that you see here. So I'm going to take a lot of my high ground, especially my dry high ground where deer can bed, where it's not just grass and kind of wet, clumpy dirt clumps and grass and stuff. This is legitimately areas where there is dry enough ground that deer can bed. So I'm going to hinge cut a whole bunch of this and just turn this into as much bedding as possible, these orange areas. My food plots are going to stay the same, but as you can see, I have removed the stands that are at those food plots. I'm going to continue to plant them. They are, especially these two, they're not very big, and they definitely help bring deer in, but I'm not going to hunt right over them because I do not want to access this far into my property with the north-south movement that I normally get. These blue areas, so these blue lines, I want to create basically a blockade. So even through my flooded timber, it's pretty open. If you stand in my food plot right now and you look to my house, I mean, you can see, my kitchen window. So what I want to do is, because deer don't use this is my main access point to the property. This is the main dead zone that I want to be using as my access, where my wind is going to be blowing. We predominantly have westerly winds, which would be coming from this way. So I want to blow all my scent and use this as my access. In doing so, I would like to create some blockades, both as barriers for deer so they just don't get back in here, but also as visual barriers for me so I can slip in to some of these stands along this east line and hopefully have deer not see me. These red zones. So this area is really, it's higher ground, it's drier ground, but it is wet. I mean, there's standing water in these spots, and not much, but there are pockets of it pretty much all year. And what I've started doing, especially here, is I've started just planting a whole bunch of red osier dogwood cuttings. And I want to continue to do that because I really want these areas to kind of turn into browse plots. These kind of being the two bigger ones, and then maybe a strip right down through here leading to my main food plot. Couple little tweaks to my main food plot. So this food plot right here, it's probably 30 by 40. It's not huge, but the deer, they don't use it as much as I would like them to. One big thing that I really need to do on it is just create better screening cover around it. But I also want to create just a couple little fingers. So this little finger coming off of here, I want to have a stand right next to my barrier that hopefully, instead of hunting right here, I can try to suck some deer in down through here to enter the food plot. Or if they don't want to enter the big one, there's just another little option for them within some cover that I can get an easy bow shot of. This one right here, a lot of what I cleared to make this food plot, and I guess, like I said, this was a major monoculture, so I had to take out a lot of trees to make this. And I kind of had to just make a brush pile right here. And I really didn't want to have to do that, but because my property is so wet, everything I do is with hand tools. I can get a four-wheeler back through here off my backyard or back through here on my other little access road. But when I do it, I pretty much can't use the same trail twice with just how much I dig down through the muck and stuff. So I had to pile up a lot of trees, brush, everything. And what I actually started finding out is deer really like just kind of working around that brush pile. There's a lot of movement that comes from here, and deer, especially bucks, will just skirt right around here and just kind of keep on filtering through the property north to south. So what I want to do is I open this up just a little bit more, and I want to plant just a little horseshoe that kind of connects the plot. And with this connection, some red osier dogwood through here, and what I really want to put is a mock scrape right here. I have a fantastic tree, just a huge old tree that I can hide within really well. Bunch of splits. I think this is a really high success, low impact stand right here. So those are kind of a couple tweaks I want to make to the big food plot. All this white stuff. So this is high ground, but it's wetter. So it's clumpy grass. It's a lot of like reed canary grass, some cattails, a lot of dead ash. And there's trees that I can hinge cut, but overall, this area is kind of just gonna be transition cover. At least that's where it is in my head right now. I need to thicken it up as best as I can, but this area is not ideal, or these areas are not ideal for deer bedding. It's just too wet. So I just want to try to thicken it up as much as I can, especially through this middle here. This won't be too bad, and just make it transition zone cover, and hopefully just keep encouraging movement, north to south, but hopefully sucking some deer down along my east border where I can easily hunt, easily access. This white area right here, this is going to be a challenge for me, because this area is an area I really want deer to start feeling comfortable using, but this has some giant mature timber in it. There's a lot of stuff that I am honestly uncomfortable taking down. It's really big, old, gnarly trees, lots of splits. I don't have a chainsaw big enough to cut some of them. I don't feel comfortable cutting some of them, but I got to figure out a way to thicken it up. There is some stuff, I think if I start working this line, which I'm pretty confident I can do, I should be able to get just enough hinge cuts in here with some of the smaller stuff to hopefully provide some side cover, let some light in, and hopefully thicken this area up. But this one right here is going to be a big challenge for me. And then let's talk about these two red stands. I've got one right here, and I've got one right here. So I know that these are hard to access stands. But one thing that Ty and I had kind of discussed, and that he had pointed out, is that these could be extremely good rut stands. These are stands that you access once, maybe twice a year during prime time, perfect conditions, and try to catch a buck cruising basically the edge of this bedding area in these little pockets, and just kind of, not necessarily go for broke, but just stands that you are intruding, and you cannot hunt these stands a whole bunch. This one I'm pretty confident in. So this higher ground right here, I can slip in right along my border. I will have to cross this, trail or area I want deer to come. But my plan is to lay down some pavers or some concrete blocks or something, just so I have nice, dry, hard surfaces that are hard for deer to pick up scent, that I can slip into this one. This one right here, I don't even know if I'm going to do. I really want to, but this area is just so grassy. It grows up so much. It's really, really, really difficult to access without leaving a huge scent trail. So I don't know what I'm going to do with that one. I've got a couple other stands here. This one, low impact, me coming in through the flooded timber, just slipping up right here, hopefully at the edge of bedding, at the edge of, this might be a little food plot trail again, coming off of this existing food plot that I have, and just a really nice, convergence of bedding, food, couple trails. I really like this stand and this stand right here as two low impact, but probably my highest odd stands for some that I can hunt a little more than, just once or twice a year. And then this one way down here. So this one I found this winter. This is a little tricky to get into just because this is really wet, but there is a really nice deer trail that basically connects through this swamp from my neighbors moving north and south. I've got a great spot that I can slip into. Again, blow my wind to the east, coming from the west. Another low-ish impact spot that I can hunt and hunt often. So that, in a nutshell, is my 2020 habitat improvement plan. If you guys have any questions, comments, suggestions, I'm all ears. Please keep it constructive. Like I said, I'm no expert. I'm learning from the experts and just trying to make my property a better deer hunting property. Our next episode, what I'm going to talk about is the lowest holes that I have in the bucket and the things that I have to prioritize and do first. So if you want to follow along, please hit the like button if you did like this video, but also hit that subscribe button and hit the bell for notifications. I'm going to try to do videos for everything that I'm doing so you guys can follow along, and hopefully you can use this information, or if nothing else, know that whatever success I have, I owe it all to the habitat improvement experts, and I owe a ton to Ty Miller from Small Acre Hunting. So thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a great rest of your night, and remember, be a sportsman, make a sportsman.